Well, hello again there, friends and fans. Raptor here, and welcome to Farthest Frontier, where today we're going to take a look at a very strong, very large military city that we've been building in this game over the last, well, actually since its release. It's been a few days since I played this game, but pretty much every day since I got my hands on it before the release up until now, I played Farthest Frontier, and I think this is one of the most promising city builder slash military slash farming slash everything game that I've ever seen. If you're a big fan of Anno 1800 or Dawn of Man or even Banished, this is definitely the game for you. This city continues to grow as I'm building towers and such all the way around it, and I'm building walls to where there's strategically defensive points and building like cool towers and barracks in order to defend key points into the city. And this city also has one of the biggest populations I've ever reached. I'm also playing on the most highest difficulty here too, Vanquisher, which is kind of the most challenging in terms of lack of supply, high disease, frequent raids, and very powerful raids when they do happen, both from basically thieves and also full-scale military invasions where they will threaten your town with violence, invasion, and destruction if you don't pay up. By the way, there's a lot of tutorials for anything you may see on the screen. It's been out for a while. There's been a lot of great content creators out there making tons of informative, informational videos and showing off different builds and cool islands and things where they've been blessed with certain maps. This one included, too, by the way, with a wonderful little land bridge here between two lakes that allowed us to build a very formidable defense here. Unfortunately, in this game, you can't build any sort of moats, but I've seen some people getting lucky with, like, peninsulas out into lakes, where they've obviously been able to build one large lake wall, like at the entrance to that peninsula, and it's been really impressive. But this game is really cool. Now, there's been a lot of updates to this game as well. Admittedly, there's some problems with the frame rates when you get up around this size of 563. You can see the frame rates really dropping, and I want to take a break on this game until they've addressed that, because the developers dropped an update recently that has added a lot of great new things to help players get started, learn, and reach the end game of the game, and so that way there can be a lot more fixes for things in the game that nobody else has found. For example, farming in this game is incredibly important, as well as cows and such, to make a massive amount of cheese for trade. And, well, actually, we're in the spring months now, so late spring, but this is the season when invasions can happen. We'll try to see ourselves an invasion here today. Where the cows are coming through one of the gates over here. That's funny. Oftentimes, raiders will break through this large, like, stone wall to the south, and then they'll try to break the wooden fence, and I really don't know why they do that, but they hate soap and they hate cattle. That seems to be the things that they always destroy. But this is the latest city that I built after all the experiences, over 200 hours in the city of just building myself and learning things via trial and error. This is what I've come up with, and I'm really proud of this city, not only for its military accomplishments, but also its seed that it spawned in with. Now, this seed might no longer work because this is pre-update, where I'm told that the seed that we currently have will not work because of the Idyllic Valley map that has been added. But beautiful locations here, for example, windmills up on hills, which you don't have to do. Wind does not play a factor in the productivity of the windmill, only the number of workers in it. But really learning a lot of techniques of keeping compost away and building grand like national cemeteries for all the wars that we've had. Our city's almost getting close to 150 years old. So everybody who's been here for the first, almost 200 years is almost dead. Everybody here is, this cemetery, they're just dying to get in, right? Of all the constant invasions and disease and old age and whatnot, people are just dying left and right, which will be a continuing factor in our city. Looks like our trader here, Big Money Masook, has arrived, which is another great thing to share as a tip in this game, too, for spices. If you ever find Masook selling spices, it's a good idea to buy those, especially if your homes are at Tier 3 or Tier 4. Very good idea. Very wise to do, because, of course, Masook will give you a lot of money. Actually, wait, it shows Masook, but that is not Masook at all. Uh-oh. I think that might need to be buffed out. That is not... Okay. No wonder it's the wrong goods. Well, anyway, lots more updates to be had. Definitely a work on the frame rate for sure. But I just wanted to share the progress of the city for those of you who have been a little too busy to check out the live streams, which I know can be very cumbersome and, yes, taxing on the PC as well. I have a very, very powerful PC, and I don't know how anybody else is playing this if they don't have some pretty formidable rig going on. Not that you need one, in order to enjoy the game, but yeah, it's definitely a taxing game for sure. Now, it is intended for the population to get somewhere up close to where we are now, because Tier 4, I think, is only accessible with 250 or so people. Oh, now we got a lot more people moving in. So they really want you to get up to these higher numbers. Looks like we got a few more people here than we can handle at the moment. Oh, and an outbreak of rats. Applebee's has rats. Oh, great, and a raid going on at the same time. Wonderful. All these problems. Okay, well, this is great. Now, one thing I want to show off here, we're going to go into super slow motion and really just take a look at this. One of the greatest things about this city is that the invasions continuously are coming in on our strongest flank. I'm not sure exactly why, but the enemy seems to continuously, and this isn't always a rule of thumb or always the case, but more often than not, they attack from the western side and just continuously hit this barracks here where they're just getting hit by, look at that shotgun blast of crossbow arrows coming out of that giant barracks there. And then also the 2 towers here, and then 2 towers off to the flank as well. So this is a wonderful area to bring down a ton of fire on the enemy. And as you can see, if we press F3 here, you can see that these raiders are all different types too. Of course, there's warriors and brawlers, and of course they're looking to thieve things, they're looking to steal. Looks like the same situation in the north. We've got a few of our people running from being out in the woods, probably doing some harvesting of trees or whatnot. And, oh, the enemy's actually breaking through because they got battering rams. Yeah. Wonder if it actually shows that health bar for it. I don't see a health bar for those. But this is one great strong suit of this game, is that even though the military stuff seems minimal for its potential, this is vastly superior to games like Dawn of Man. And Banished, for example, didn't even have military invasions at all, and kind of reminds me of Stronghold. If you remember Stronghold or Stronghold Crusader, you'd build your keep, of course, and fill it with food, and then, of course, be attacked and have to send out your troops. This game does give you the ability to command your troops, both soldiers and guards, guards being the ones occupying the towers, and soldiers being the ones that you can give orders to, but they'll also park in the barracks and fire at the enemy until the enemy either retreats or, of course, you have to deploy them. And now, the enemy does have the ability to sneak past here. One thing I want to see in this game, too, is a little update to walls, for example. The enemy seems to sneak through here. There's a little tiny itty-bitty gap there, but the enemy can't sneak through on this side where there's a much larger gap. So it's kind of inconsistent with the traversal for AI. No enemies can sneak through here, but they can sneak through that even smaller gap, so it's something I'd like to see improved. Has there been any more invasions? Oh, wow, the enemy attacked down here, too. They're dead. You can see a few corpses there. Another thing to note for those of you who are really interested in the military stuff is that there is no bonus or negative factor for killing the enemy. There is no gaining of resources like spoils or salvage or something that you can smelt down. But luckily, you also don't have to put them in your cemeteries, so that's a good thing. They don't take up unnecessary space. All right, well, we've got a few people to house. Let's just check and see if Masuk actually did arrive. Maybe it was just like a little graphical thing here. We'll check real quickly. Yeah, it does appear that our good friend Atka there has arrived. Of the Iron Clan. All right, well, we'll build a few more houses here. This is just a western side of the neighborhood where I do have plans to eventually expand here. One of the things I see people often struggling with, and this is a good tip to share as well, one thing that's come up more recently is structural integrity, which is different than building health. So to cover this simply, structural integrity is like your maintenance cost that's paid with materials. I believe you need a worker to repair it. Sorry, a builder to be precise, not a worker. But there are laborers and there are builders. So builders will bring the materials that are required to the work site for a building that is suffering from 60% or lower structural integrity. If a building bursts into flame or is attacked by the enemy by literally being struck by a weapon, the health will drop. That's the green bar down here with the health symbol down below. So this will basically eventually lower until the building collapses, but also the same with structural integrity. So over time, when a building gets low enough, you'll see the bar pop up and it'll say several materials that are required. For example, clay bricks or stone or wood planks. And so it's a good idea to make sure you've got an ample amount of those on storage ready to go at all times. Even now, I'd say our storage is a little low. I've gone crazy with buying materials constantly from traders coming in. And the only things we can't buy are like, well, on occasion you can buy planks, but you absolutely can't buy firewood at the moment. And so we put an insane amount of our materials towards that. And every single time I've been able to, we continuously are clearing trees away from the wall. The wall is very aggressive with the, for whatever reason, it very much attracts like the trees to grow back to it. And I try to clear the area out, so I'm continuously having workers go out, almost like having the military go out and clear brush away from the wall, for line of sight purposes, but then also it gives us the bonus of firewood and other things like that. So yeah, constantly I've been pushing these trees back to like about here, and they keep growing back. So rather than building a workers camp, which is a good idea too, I've been, you know, continuously clearing these trees away, especially so I could see when I'm giving commands and stuff. The enemy must be somewhere around still. They must be picking on us somewhere. But yeah, walls are not cheap and not easy to build, but they used to also have structural integrity. So keep in mind that the walls now do not have that structural integrity cost. So go wild. Fences used to, and walls used to, and then it was like mixed and matched, and now none of those require structural integrity. And I believe it's the same for towers too. So there's no upkeep cost for towers or defensive structures like walls and gates. It used to be the case, but not anymore. Let's check barracks. Yeah, also barracks don't need structural integrity. So assume that the military just does it when they're not, you know, actually firing on anybody. They're either training or doing maintenance on their structures and things like that. So yeah, this city makes me very proud. I've gone to the idyllic valley before and tried to make a beautiful city in flat land, but I've got to say the hilly landscape is much more interesting to be able to build between lakes and on top of hilltops and such like that. And I will share the seed for those of you interested, although again, remember, it may not work. So you can find the seed down there with 586 Charlie Charlie 23 Alpha 66 Charlie, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. And we're also playing on the Foxtrot version of this now, so 0.7.5 Foxtrot. So we'll probably come back to this when there's some more major updates for performance or whatnot. But there are great tutorial series on the channel for all sorts of things, like, for example, addressing how to build double walls or building double gates. Oftentimes, I'm under the belief that if you got to build it twice, then you didn't build it right, that kind of thing. So typically, walls are, you know, single defended like this, but because we have a barracks nearby, the barracks can respond to any forces nearby it, and then if there's a breakthrough, they can respond that way. So that way, oftentimes players are saying they don't have a lot of stone, and so doubling down on a resource you don't have can be, yeah, it'll lead you into bad times. Luckily, we're making plenty of bricks for upgrades for our buildings. We have plenty of clay that we've been importing because we don't have a lot of that around us. This, by the way, is the arid, alpine lakes region. So it's like the mountains, but with lots of lakes. And as you can see, some of them are quite beautiful here. A couple of more issues with the livestock herds here, I think, coming down to population. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and slaughter a couple of those cows. I've got to say, this is really the type of game that I like all the other games I mentioned, like Dawn of Man and Austrian and Anno, and this game does it well without being overly complicated, where instead of managing like 14 cities like you do in Anno 1800, in this case you're actually, wow, we're getting attacked, must be a boar. Oh yeah, there it is. I can see it. Dead now. Anyway, yeah, so Anno becomes so complicated and so intricate and so much more about trading, and this is too, but it's so nice to be able to build a city where it's like Banished. It's almost as, it feels as if Banished was becoming, like if you were to somehow connect Banished into Anno 1800, it's like the segue between the two. Like if Banished had Anno elements and it went from Anno 1404, but then eventually became Anno 1800. It's kind of the time frame for this game. There's no news yet on Tier 4 buildings and no news on Tier 4 or 5 buildings. The 4 buildings that do exist, however, are the Town Hall and also the houses. So houses can go up to Tier 4. And again, as I mentioned with the Masuk deal, it's always a good idea to have extra spices. That will give you, right now we're making a ton of gold, 300 plus off manufacturing, which means gold mines that are literally taking gold ore, mining that out of the earth, and then turning it into ingots, which is giving us plus 300. But I have seen that spice gives us about the same. So buying spice for about 500 people to purchase from their homes, with everybody being at this tier and being able to afford it, generates an insane amount of tax revenue. So if you're going to have a military, you got to have a very strong economy too to be able to pay for it. As you can see, soldier training alone is 689, and then the services is 148. So that's basically things like theaters and maybe the markets if they have an operating cost. I think they actually only generate, but yeah, entertainment you can see listed below at 96. Services must be related to health then and schooling, but it all kind of lumps into less than like 300. So we can cover all the city's expenses for the city services basically by the gold mine, and then everything else could be for the military from all the luxury taxes, which ain't cheap. But luckily, I think the best thing about this game is not only just the the defenses you can build, and I would hope to build diagonal walls someday, but actually building along the line, the landscape, and creating lines that way. Like, for example, here I built where the high ground was and tried to flatten it out as best I could. So, you'd probably think about building a city wall tight around the city and then build the farms outside that. But in this case, the opportunity presented itself to be mostly on the high ground for a lot of these towers, giving them range boost, not a range boost, but a damage boost. And eventually this wall here will connect up to the barracks up here. So this mountain in the north will be a great defensive position, and this wall will continue to expand that way. And then down here in the south, it is likely that we'll put a fort down here, just like you saw before, the tier 2 upgraded barracks, and we'll actually build some sort of large fortress on this hill, so an outpost once all these mines are gone. There's tons of iron ore, coal, and gold mines in that hill in the south, so there's a lot of bitness going on there, and bitness is booming. Yeah. So our invasion just happened. Typically when invasions happen, they're followed up in hard mode by I've noticed that it seems like 2 out of 3 years, it could be, one year, then not, then once again. It seems like there is always an invasion 2 out of those 3 years. So it doesn't give us much time to really rebuild our military or buy or afford anything new without too much, not enough time passes. So we don't get a lot of time to actually improve upon our things here. One thing I want to do is improve our saw pit there so we can make some more planks, though, for any upgraded homes. And, of course, for maintenance or preventative maintenance before a building becomes condemned. So a lot of the things that I'm seeing are related to structural integrity, questions from you guys about structural integrity. And then also in addition to that, not only just structural integrity, but the condemned versus abandoned problem. If a home, for example, if you have a raider come into your town and destroy a park and you didn't see it, it would be great in the future if the development team put like a little icon above a destroyed building, because it could be hard to find the destroyed park in the city. Like, it could be hard to do. There's not one, but what I mean by that is basically if they destroy a park, your buildings could lose desirability, and it's almost that they'll move out faster when the park is destroyed than you can actually find it and rebuild it and stuff like that. So keep in mind, a building will go from abandoned to condemned with structural integrity, but also with desirability too. And I think people will move back in if you increase the desirability again, but I see it a little bit more rare that way. We'll get some rat catchers down over there on that side. But I wanted to show off here. The structural integrity is now down below 60%, and you can see here that this building now requires 5 gold ingots, 3 wooden planks, and 2 bricks in order to be fully repaired. And I think that number will continue to increase as the number goes down, as it goes from 59 to 40 to 30 to 20%. Now, I also believe that this is the lowest priority job for your builders, too. So if you assign builders and you have a lot of projects going on building new houses elsewhere, you might want to put those on pause or disable construction so the workers have something, the builders have something to get caught up on. Now, you can't prioritize the structural integrity. A lot of people ask, how do I repair a building? And it should be done automatically. Unfortunately, there's no way to prioritize that construction or that repair. So just keep that in mind, that that's going to be kind of a thing you're going to need to plan for by having maybe way more builders than what you need, or just do a boost into building for a year in order to cover that. Wow, lots of rats here. I'm going to build this as a temporary building here. Don't know why the music's still playing for the battle. Somebody must be caught somewhere, enemy soldier or something somewhere. But I often don't get to hear this battle music enough, so I don't mind it too much. Now, another question I see from you guys is, everybody wants to build a big O city and put a wall around it, and one of the things that can be troublesome is feeding that population and keeping the food stores up. Now, one of the things the developers have confirmed for future updates is that they'll make it easier or harder to store food by increasing or decreasing the spoilage rate. Now, right now, you can see it's just insane amount of food. We have like, what, 20-something hundred cheese and over 1,600 berries, and a lot of that's going towards preserves. We have a lot of fruit. We have a lot of cabbage being preserved as well. And just, yeah, great amount of food. But 5 months of that over the next year will spoil unless we make more. So, yeah, great thing to do is to, as you're making more and more food variety, also try to conserve that food by putting more and more barrels in your root cellar. So just keep in mind that you can buy barrels from Lethros of Cardell, the trader with the large beard. It's got like a large black beard and looks pointy, that guy. He'll trade you a lot of barrels. So you can build a cooper too. but it might be easier to start with just buying barrels, especially if you're before tier 3. Keep in mind, before tier 3, you can do mining, but you won't be able to do any sort of smelting or whatnot until tier 3. So at tier 2, you can definitely start importing and trying to get those root cellars ready. And then, of course, you can upgrade your root cellars too. Well, the population is closing in closer and closer to almost 600, and with that, we're going to probably increase the number of people inside of our fortresses. I don't think we're going to build any more aside from that one in the south that I mentioned previously. Put that here, throw a wall around it, and maybe use this as a checkpoint. The AI is very smart in trying to take the roads when it invades. So keep in mind that the enemy will try to make a beeline for the roads because they realize that's the areas to the weakest entrances to the city. For example, your fortified gate has 1,800 hit points. Your fortified wall has 2,200, so slightly less hit points on the gate. So that's why it's a good idea to build towers nearby and always keep those defended, that kind of thing. And we're continuously building towers all the way across. We'll do this all the way up the eastern wall as it creeps all the way up to the mountain up there. And we're going to continue to cut down all of these trees. The way we've been able to keep up with a lot of our coal demand is, of course, we got coal mines, but the insane amount of charcoal that it takes to make our glass makers and brick makers and even the blacksmith is really fixed or taken care of by taking a massive amount of firewood and putting it into the charcoal kilns. And honestly, it's not a bad thing to have multiple wood cutters to make firewood. You want to make sure you get the firewood numbers up because firewood is going to be a thing that can vastly disappear, especially if you get like 2 blizzards in a row. I haven't seen it happen yet, but a blizzard will almost quadruple the number of the amount of firewood that's burned, and so it can quickly disappear and be a problem for your city's supply disappearing and not being able to warm itself, or lack of charcoal. So even if you have a lot of coal mines, it still might be a good idea to have a charcoal kiln for if ever the charcoal, or rather the coal mine gets any sort of problem, burns down, gets attacked, or you use the workforce somewhere else. Now, I don't know what the production ratios are for the charcoal kiln. 4 people can work there, and 6 people can work at the coal mine, so it might be a good idea to experiment a little bit with that. And yeah. Another thing I see you guys asking me about often is the wagons. For example, over here we built ourselves a little wagon shop that's kind of on the outskirts of towns, kind of closer to some mines that are outside the walls, but also close by to where materials and stuff can be delivered around. Like, for example, here we have a stockyard where things like wood logs are coming in and then eventually turned into firewood for the charcoal kiln. So what I've done is try to make one wagon shop for every 100 people, and then I try to put one in the center of the city, one in the north, south, east, or west, or near where I have major deposits. For example, like multiple large clay deposits would be a good idea to build next to, or like a large gold deposit. That's all good. Still a little bit of a debate too, by the way, over the Hunter Lodge. A lot of people saying that it's a waste of metal or whatnot for the trapping and to keep it tier 1. I can certainly agree with that being a great way to save metal, but I've also made a good amount of extra meat that way too, so it all depends on whether or not you've got cows. But I do recommend that even if you're focusing on more of a military city, you are going to want those hunters up and you're going to want those cows. And the reason being is because, of course, they make pelts, and that's how you're going to make your armor. And so when you get to your tier 2 arsenal, that's going to be the beeline to making a ton of money. Check this out. Look at this building. Check that out right there. That's Tom Cruise from The Last Samurai. So this guy here, the armorer, it's actually a group of 6 of them working at the arsenal. The tier below this is the armory, but with the arsenal unlocked, we can actually make shields, hauberks, and in addition to that, plate armor. So that's the thing that unlocks when you upgrade that thing to tier 2. Now this is only like the tier 3 armor, I would say, or something like that. Like this arsenal does not unlock until the town is like tier 4. So it's a tier 2 upgrade for this building, but there could be one more building. There could be more weapons coming, like, for example, gunpowder, or perhaps maybe large cannons, like what the Turks used, or there could be trebuchets, catapults, and maybe we could actually use muskets and other types of flintlock-type weapons in the future in the game as well, which would definitely change our defenses. If the enemy could just blast in via large explosives, it might change how we do things. So we'll have to see how that all breaks down. sealing off a barracks in the south there with that wall around it that you just saw a moment ago. Lots of orchards around. I think our town still has plenty of room to grow, especially in the north up here, where we will move a wall somewhere up here around this large mountain and then back to the west to where it'll connect over here. Trying to take as many of the high ground positions as we can, mostly to piss off Anakin, especially over here where all the sand is. Yeah, really good spot to actually hold. He ain't getting through. He can stay there all day and have his tantrum, but he ain't breaking through. Additionally, the southern side is having a little bit more problem with waste and whatnot piling up. So we do have a beeline position here. Oh, that's interesting. They destroyed the gate over there by the compost heap. But essentially, this is a main highway that leads down to those buildings. So eventually, it'll pick up. And yeah, actually, you saw somebody pick that up just now. Now there's one there. But, yes, so the city will continue to expand to the west and northwest sections, so we could probably get our population, as some of you have been telling me, up to 1,000 or so. That is great and a real good accomplishment, a great achievement. Numbers are, boy, you must have a negative 1,000 frame rate. You must owe frames, like you got to take out a frame loan, but yeah, I'm impressed to hear everybody having a good time and experimenting and building all sorts of great builds. A lot of people criticize me for what seems to be a more grid-based focus, and I think that comes down to mostly all the walls being square. In this game, you can only build walls in like a 90-degree, so most of my main roads kind of start that way, and it just seems to be, since the buildings are all square themselves with their plots, it just seems to be better to build a square around certain buildings, that kind of thing. Although I do love the curved roads, and of course roundabouts are possible, doing the city skylines technique of making like a plus sign in roads and then connecting the nodes and then deleting the middle. You can make yourself like a nice park square that way. So lots and lots of cool stuff going on for decoration. I really do like our town trade center too. The trade center here is kind of on some higher land in the lower section of the city. And I love the clock. I think there was some debate and speculation from me, and even the devs had to check their notes to see if the clock actually kept real time. Somebody had asked that question at the exact time it was during one of our live streams, so I can confirm that that's not the case at the moment. But, you know, it'd be kind of cool if the devs did something like that in the future to make it actually reflect whatever time it is for you on the clock, just on this large trade center. So this is like all these buildings are like tier 2, and I'd love to see more upgrades for all these buildings. See stockyards going up to tier 3. Everything is all upgradable to tier 2 for the most part. Some buildings can be upgraded to higher tiers, like for example the town hall, and some buildings can't be upgraded at all, such as maybe your some of your decorations can't be upgraded to tier 2, like the statues. Parks can, but not some of those things. Like the brickmaker, for example, can't be upgraded to tier 2. But it would be great to be able to utilize more space and make it more effective without, you know, growing your city would be great. Growing up or upgrading rather than building out would be really good for keeping everything within the wall. And hopefully our walls are completed here shortly. Let's go ahead and take a look at all the old age deaths that we've had. I'm sure we've got a few people to replace. Don't forget to do this every so often. Check your, maybe a couple of times a year, go to your professional line and make sure you got everybody employed as you want them. And make sure there's no orange. You got to do that manually, but we do have 30 people assigned as builders and 47 as laborers. So that's basically to keep the city running and functioning. And now we're heading into another spring. You can see the thaw on the grass. This game does an incredible job. I still can't praise it enough for how it looks. I want to make sure it runs great now, and I really want to speak highly about this game and all other aspects other than the frame rate. Although I will say that this was much worse. In other episodes and stuff, I think it was it's about where it is now, but at about half the population. So at about somewhere about 250, 300 population, that's where the game would really tank to where now it's gotten up to about 600. So hopefully there's still more improvements and stuff that way. Oh, this music is great. If raiders come in, I wonder if it'll double play the music. It is now spring. We're going to see what we call trades and raids. That's where the enemy is going to come in and attack, but also the trade convoys come in with a deal and a steal. All right, we got more and more people clearing all the trees out here. Another good day one tips are on the channel too about doing things like the blueberry bushes and cows and military stuff. Make sure you please do ask your questions and give tips down below on what you would recommend to me or other players. More than willing to open my ears and my arms to ideas that I may have not tried yet. Some things like walls and whatnot, I understand the concept of doubling up on those, and also the ability to build certain kill boxes and things. There seems to be a lot of interest in making traps and such for the AI. It is fun to goof with them. I do believe that the low-level raiders are very low level. They're not very smart. They'll raid pretty much all your walls and your gates, which are your hard points, but the invading army is rather smart. They will tend to go around the walls, or at least their spawn points might, and then you'll have to beat them in the field with your armies, to which we've got plenty of troops here. Keep in mind, another tip for the military stuff for those of you making armies, the Tier 2 barracks, well, the Tier 1 is a 12-person barracks, the Tier 2 is a 24-person barracks, and the Tier 2 also has a greater range and more damage for the crossbows that it can fire if the enemy gets close. And additionally, remember, your troops have like different weapon types that they can get. The best weapon type in the game is to have a heavy weapon, a crossbow, and plate mail armor. That seems to be the best. And you can also, of course, give your people shields and halberds and medium swords and whatnot, but it seems like all the heavy stuff is exactly where you want it to be. That's a good thing. All right, we have disease outbreaks happen frequently in the spring, too. I would not be surprised if we see a massive outbreak of cholera, dysentery, smallpox, or typhoid, or hell, even the bubonic plague. During this playthrough in this city, we found out that the bubonic plague is actually in the game. And yeah, there was a massive outbreak, and luckily, minimal deaths. I thought that would be much more impactful. But another thing we found out recently, too, is that the hospital doesn't seem to use medicine. If you go to the resources tab for medicine, it doesn't seem like anybody uses that except for the healer's hut, which is the Tier 1. So it seems like a workaround to not having a upgraded healer's hut, which would be the hospital. You can actually make medicine and keep it at Tier 1, but that still makes, if you're going to make medicine, you need an apothecary, which is Tier 3, so you may as well upgrade to the hospital. But it must just be for selling. If you build an apothecary, it's because you have a lot of medicinal roots, which I don't have, and a lot of willow, which I don't have, and also honey, but you should be able to get honey on any map. So just keep that in mind, that the best thing in the game at the moment seems to be the hospital and the school. Like, they kind of work like almost free buildings. I feel like the school and the hospital will be completely reworked, but a hospital with like 2 doctors in it can heal up to 30 people per hospital and do it rather effectively. Even at the hardest difficulty, if 60 people became diseased, I wouldn't see more than like maybe, it would be like a super, super bad day if maybe 5 people died. It's more like 3 that's going to happen. Anyway, Big Money Masuk is here with the spices, so now I can show off my secrets, my trade secrets for this totally intended game mechanic that's not secret at all. All right, let's go ahead and buy 206 here. We're going to throw that into storage and let our people start buying that. And it looks like Big Money Masuk here, BMM, big money rolling in, wanting to buy a bunch of our heavy armor and stuff. So we're going to go ahead and put like maybe 30 of that there. We're probably not going to hire too much more of an army at the moment. But we did find out one important piece of information, too, about the raids, is that when the enemy shows up, they'll give you 6 months to, or rather 12 months to prepare for an invasion. And if you don't click pay now or deny, they'll stay there, and then of course they'll attack at the end of the countdown. You can build a wall around that enemy, that army, as they stand around. You can actually build a wall around them in a bunch of towers, and you are not able to attack them early. You're not able to send your army out there, or the towers won't shoot. But once they become aggroed, you can basically get them in a kill zone. So you have like a year to like make a mad dash to either improve your defenses or maybe cheese them a little bit. I mean, cheese is a little fun. This game's all about cheese anyway, so... What's a popular cheese where you all live? And where's everybody watching from, too, by the way? So many people watch. I'd love to see you give a shout-out down below in the comment section of where you're watching from. Might give me an idea as to what inspires your city. I feel like a lot of the times when I build my cities, some of these roadways feel more like canals, and it feels a little Dutch to me. But I do like how the windmills and stuff are set up as well. Certain things are just different. It's been great to see all of my international friends with their backgrounds of their upbringings and stuff build different cities based on what they just grew up around, and or what's like their natural environment, you know. Wow, look at that. We're down to 75 spices now. Big money. I think we're going to buy some more. Let's buy another, maybe 200. He does not show up too often with the spices, but something that the developers did confirm that they're going to do in the future is make it so you can request resources. It's not available at the moment, but soon you'll be able to put in a request at a higher price, of course. So if you're really looking to get like cheese one year, or you have a shortage of leather or something like that, you can put in a purchase order and it'll be delivered the next year. All right, Big Money Masook out of money now. We bought a ton of spices from him, so hopefully that brings us a ton of money. I'm also going to buy sand because we're making glass, and that's good for our preserves. Bricks we don't really need. Glassware we're making our own, and it's extra expensive. I think we're good here for Big Money Masook for now. He's kind of out of cash. We could trade a few more weapons or armor. We'll go ahead and do that. Oh, well, we can trade one. Maybe some of these weapons here. We'll trade 20. Oh, there we go. Bubonic plague popping up. Check it out. Speaking of the devil. Now, that might be because of the rat outbreak over here, but I think that's being cured now. They did finish that rat catcher here. So that rat catcher building is working on the rats there. But as you can see, it's harbored by rodents. The bubonic plague is a deadly disease that can be transmitted by fleas. If treatment fails, those affected may be left with permanent disability or die. To avoid the plague outbreaks, limit rat populations by storing grain in granaries. We've got that. Improving food storage. Got that. Barrels and also the root cellar. Collecting household waste and emptying the rat catchers if necessary. Oh, employing rat catchers, yeah. Boy, that's going to be interesting. We'll see how many people may be affected by that. Let's see if there's a massive outbreak. That could be a thing that definitely going to see a big outbreak on. And let's see if raiders come in. I've had it happen where a massive military raid came in, then the bubonic plague struck, and then another invasion right after that the next year. So sometimes this game doesn't, there's no holds barred from the wonderful world of, the magical world of Farthest Frontier. It's the farthest of all frontiers. It's the furthest of farthest. Yeah, indeed it is. Another thing I could recommend too about starting out is that towers are incredibly powerful, and even though we've got towers inside the city and towers outside the city, I still keep the ones on the inside for if the invaders actually make it in. And we kind of try to keep like a main street here, so you can see that the city hall and the trade depot and a lot of the warehouses in that trade area are all together. So for example, our stockyards and stuff are all close to the main trade center, so that way if we are trying to sell something, we don't have to wait as long for it to be sold, which is nice. It's actually much easier to do trade deals that way. I'm going to sell one more heavy weapon to Masook, and he's pretty much wiped out cash-wise. Boy, we could squeeze him for every penny, couldn't we? We'll get him for another 18 or so, then that'll be fine. 36? Let's do 36. There we go. Very nice. All right. So, yeah, population. We're one away from our maximum population again. This is the highest I've ever had in this game for a population, so I feel very proud about all the other things that I've learned in this game through trial and error, and seeing updates come in, too, to make the game easier has made me a little jealous. I had to do this without the Mega Rock, which gives you 1,200 stone, remember? But it's all good. I'm not that mad. But, hey, here, we're continuing to still buy all of our rock and stone, as if this were Deep Rock Galactic or something like that. Great game, Deep Rock Galactic, for sure, for sure. But, yeah, so we're continuously buying those resources and cutting them down, too. We're very low on iron ore, it looks like. But speaking of the devil, our friend of the Iron Clan has showed up with a lot of stone. Excellent. A lot of iron. Excellent. We're buying it at no matter the price. We're also going to buy iron ore if she's got it, and or coal, because that's something becoming a little more expensive to come by. But if the trade deal with Masook taught us anything, we're able to regain a lot of that cash quickly. And same with our lady friend here. We can, you know, start selling tons of candles for a very cheap, very promising price, I should say, a good price, and make our money back. And we're going to still deal with candles and whatnot. Well, that music's stun locked. I've never heard that before. All right, let's go with 100 clay pots. Very good. New villager born. Bum, 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 bum. Trade's very important here. That might seem boring to like sit around and look at these numbers, but it's quite exciting actually to make sure you've got everything you need and to be able to have the financial power to make purchases. It's very good. Buying all that good stuff is nice. So it looks like we're a little close to zero on clothes. Oh boy. All right, well, let's see. We have ourselves another military raid. We will wait until the traders leave here. We're up at our maximum population. Despite all the death from disease and old age, we're now at the max again. And we're kind of still upgrading the town over here on this side. Feels good to be back at the city. I am so happy to be back. I hope you guys are enjoying it so far as well. Thanks again for smashing like for Susie's algorithm and subscribing and becoming members and dropping member bombs in our live stream chats and stuff. You guys are great. I wanted to say thanks again for watching Farthest Frontier, because I've been really enjoying playing this game and played it for well over a month. I am... Raptor. I'm taking a break. Also Raptor. 50-minute video of Farthest Frontier. This is me on break, okay? This is a good game, and I can stop playing it anytime I want to, and I did yesterday for a little bit. Okay? So just stop judging. I can feel the judgment, okay? Only Judy can judge me in the food court of law. So I don't want to hear anybody trying to give me a hard time, okay? Leave me alone. Okay? It's a good game. All right? You know, another interesting thing about this game, too, by the way, being good, is that I think they could do a much gooder job. I had to use the word just to, you know, tie it together. But there seems to be a bonus from barrels inside your granaries. And a few other buildings get this bonus, too, where though it doesn't show being able to hold barrels in the building on its menu screen, it does give you a bonus for having extra barrels inside, like, for example, a granary. So the flour or the grain could be stored for a lot longer, but that's something you don't see on other buildings. Oh, see, there's a destroyed building here. Look at that. See? How the hell was I supposed to know? See? See how easy that is to miss? Anyway, but yeah, going back to what I... Oh, no. A raid again? Hold on. Wow, this is like part 2. Raid part 2. Look at this. Hold on. Hold that thought. I forgot what I was saying. Oh, boy. Yeah, you can see them walking right past. This is actually good, though, because this distracts them. They walk to the other side of the wall and start attacking both sides of the gate, and then they just get like, yeah, sure, go ahead. Walk all around while you're getting shot at. That's fine by me. 118 raiders, though. That's not the main attack. There's got to be more. That was definitely no 118. Where's the other attack? Southern section's good. Eastern section's good. It's got to be north. I can hear stabbing. Towers up here. Well, somebody's getting stabbed. Or something. Hard to detect sometimes. I think there needs to be a little work on... It is really cool that the raiders don't just attack from one spot like they do in Dawn of Man. I am happy with the raids coming in from like 3 different positions at once. I used to think that it was multiple raids from multiple positions, but it's all just one. So it's nice to see that, you know, the enemy is kind of somewhat tactical. Where the hell is all that? We need to find out what's going on. I can hear all this clinking and clanking of enemies attacking. But where is it? A mini-map here would be helpful, too, to be able to attack, to detect where the raids and the attacks are coming from, or to be notified somehow. Well, yeah, like a mini-map. Like, for example, in They Are Billions, showing a giant flashing skull. That would be helpful. I don't see any attacks where we normally have buildings. It's got to be in the south. Let's see, the far, far south. Oh, yeah. Alright, so their attack in the south is kind of just beginning. These towers are great. All 3 of these towers cover each other, and we put 2 people in them each to really sock it to an invading army. We'll probably keep these towers here when we then build a barracks down here, too. But that's going to stop them from getting anywhere close to the wall. You can see our people, and especially our transporters, trying to get away from that. Now, if a transporter dies, it's no consequence, really. It is, you know, somebody will be replenished there, but it's not like you... well, they're going to destroy that building, but the wagons can be replaced. You know, it's not like it's a one-time thing where you have to get the oxen or something like that. Those are provided for free at the moment. But maybe eventually horses, and then horse armor, and then it becomes an EA title. No, I'd hate that. I'd hate that. But one of the greatest things I've heard in this game is that you guys have said that this is from the makers of Grim Dawn. Grim Dawn was a fantastic, as you all say, ARPG, an action RPG, and that the developer continues repeatedly to update that game and is just super aggressive in supporting their modding community for that game, the updates for that game, and the overall content and quality for that game. So I have no doubt about the power of the barracks right over here. Check this out. Or the developer's power to upgrade the game and make it even better over time. And now they're bailing. Look at that. A couple people lost in the battle, but hey, that's war. And now we got 583 homes, so population can grow again. Well, the enemy wasted their time down here. A massive chunk of the enemy killed by those towers. And now they're fleeing. That's probably the area that made them break their morale. And now they're being, well, they're routed from the battlefield, quite frankly. Very nice. Much more to do in this military-based city, I must say. I'm really proud of my accomplishments here. The organization, I think it's incredibly difficult to nail beauty. First of all, to get a map that looks beautiful, then to make it beautiful, to make it functional, to make it economical, to make it different from previous cities, but to also try new things that you haven't before, to learn for another city, knowing that you may eventually move on to rebuild again and again, and to put a wall all around it all and be able to afford it is quite the accomplishment in this game. If we take a look to, again, we've got over 11,000 in the bank plus 4,000 in the town treasury. Our people have done a great job of giving us tons of funds to be able to spend on public services and, you know, of course, afford things like building more roads and decorative areas for our lovely little graveyards here, even though they're free. But we can decorate these areas and make them look nice, even though it doesn't give us any sort of game mechanic bonus. Other tips include, by the way, real quick, is, again, remember you can build park plazas underneath roads. I think that in this game, if you can do that, the roads themselves should, when they upgrade to Tier 2, which is from dirt roads to cobblestone roads, they should automatically give a desirability buff. But it's something I haven't seen yet. And so you can build park plazas. I think I've done this before here. If I can click on one, I can see it. Yeah, there you go. Plazas over here underneath the road. So you can build these plazas to get squeeze a little bit of extra desirability out of there. And then you can also upgrade it too to like brick. So in the smallest of space of where you've already got, you know, space taken up by a road, you can use all of that roadway to build essentially a long strip of high desirability, which could give you a nice little boost. It's probably something I'd do over here, for example, to bring some of these Tier 3 homes up to Tier 4 and some of these Tier 2s up to 3. You know, these homesteads here. Yeah, I want to upgrade those. But it would probably even be better to build like a statue or something for me. But hey, it doesn't really cost too much and cost nothing for space since you've already got a road there. Very, very powerful. All right, guys, go ahead and let me know all the tips, tricks, secrets, and things that you've found out down below in the comment section. Let me know some of the most interesting strategies you've come up with or seen elsewhere. If you have any questions about the game, please do feel more than welcome to ask, and me and my lovely community will be happy to get back to you. Leave a message after the beep. I'm basically saying, no, but it's great. I love having discussions about Farthest Frontier, and I love people asking about, like for example, the blueberry farm. Again, remember, check the channel's playlist for a tutorial on things like cows and starting your city for day one, blueberries, military building and barracks, and more complex stuff. This was kind of more of a tour and a hey, here's what's been new in the updates recently, and a hey, I missed you, and hey, Farthest Frontier is pretty sweet, that kind of thing all together. So if you haven't picked it up already, I believe it's about $30 US on Steam. I think if you had any of the previous games from the devs, there's like an added discount to it, but for a game that's not complete, this is probably the biggest potential I've seen in a city builder in a long time for a game that's early access, and it keeps on getting better, unlike that frame rate. My city gets bigger and that tanks, but hey, it says a lot about a game for being nearly unplayable, but yet still being a hell of a good time. But don't let it discourage you. Build and build again. I'll see you all next time. Thank you very much for leaving a like on the way out. Thank you very much for subscribing, and thank you very, very much for watching. No bear emotes in the comment section, please. Thank you. Goodbye. Good bear. Goodbye. I mean, bye.